Welcome to Chez Les Fleur Podcast. This is our premiere episode, and we are so happy that you have chosen to join us today. We're going to talk about small business. We're going to talk about people in retail. We're going to talk about people that are really making an impact in their community through the business that they grow and love. And nurturing a business is challenging, it's wonderful, it's heartbreaking, it's all of these things. And we are going to showcase some of the dedicated business owners around the world that are really loving what they do and doing some great things. They're turning their dreams into thriving small businesses. So whether you have a business, whether you are in an industry of some kind, or you just are interested in what small business retailers are doing, this is a show to watch. We've got a great lineup of people that are going to thrill us and teach us and make us laugh. So without further ado, let's get started. My first guests I am so happy and proud to have with me are my good friends, Bob and Susan Negen. They have changed my life and they change a lot of people's lives. And they have a fascinating business that teaches small business owners, staff, how to be better small business owners and staff. And that's the WhizBang training. And I first heard Bob speak years ago at a convention, and I followed them ever since. And like I say, they've been instrumental in a lot of my success. So you don't want to hear from me. Let's meet Bob and Susan Negen at WhizBang. Welcome, Bob. Welcome, Susan.
Well, thank you, Janet. And it's, we're so honored to be here on the premiere episode.
We are. What an incredible opportunity. We're super excited to be here.
And congratulations to you for getting this off the ground. I mean, just really, really happy for you and proud of you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So let's hear from the two of you. I got a few questions here for you.
Good.
So you're both leaders at WhizBang.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Did you start the company together?
Yes.
We did.
You did.
Actually, it was Bob's brainchild. Unsurprisingly, Bob's our visionary.
I kind of had to talk her into it.
Bob's our visionary leader, and it was kind of his brainchild. And we had been working together in his small independent retail store. He had a chain of kite and toy stores here in Michigan, and then sold the business to his brother. And he had been having this idea of working to help other retailers get the help that he didn't have when he first started. And you had this great idea, right?
Well, yeah. Yes, it was a great idea.
It must be a great idea anyway.
So, Janet, I mean, you're a small retailer, and you know how hard it is to get traction. You know how hard it is to grow a business. You know how stressful it is. And my brother Steve and I went through all of that. And then luckily I met Susan, not just for our business, but for my life.
At least that's what he said.
Yeah, that's right. If you ever need a buyer, just marry one. But when I met Susan, so Steve and I, don't get me wrong, we had a really good business and we had a great reputation on the street, and we were growing every year. We were expanding into multiple locations, but something wasn't quite right. And then I met Susan, and Susan was a department store executive. And so there were holes in my skill set, or ours in the skill set at the Mackinac Kite Company. Holes and skills that I didn't even know existed. Like I didn't know what open to buy planning was, or assortment planning, or, there were just a lot of things that we didn't know how to do because we were learning it on the fly. We were teaching ourselves as we went. And then Susan came and she taught us all of these skills. So when Susan came, it was sort of this blend of, Steve and I, my brother Steve and I, our entrepreneurial spirit. And then Susan brought in this sort of professionally trained retail skill set. And when those two things came together, really great things started to happen for the Mackinac Kite Company. really started to work. I remember looking at Susan one day and it was like, oh my gosh, somebody actually taught her how to do this.
Yeah, exactly.
And so then the business really tightened up, became much more profitable. It's amazing what a little help with your inventory management will do.
That'll do it.
And so good things started to happen. And then on Labor Day of 1999, my brother Steve gave me an envelope, and it was an offer to buy the company. And it took me less than 2 hours to decide to sell to him. Susan looked at me and she said, you spent 19 years building this thing. You're going to make this decision
In an hour and a half?
But
make that decision?
Yeah, but I knew that, that retailers, you're a case in point, really could benefit from my journey and our journey and what we learned. And so my idea was to have WhizBang retail training. And it took me a little while to talk you into it.
Not that long.
Not that long.
Not that long.
So
he's pretty persuasive.
And so here we are. So that's the origin story of WhizBang training. So but then we didn't know, we had a product, what we knew about retail, but we didn't know how to sell that product. So then
we didn't even know how to package what we knew, right?
Right.
So the first thing we did, if you'll remember,
the Retail Success Series.
We did the Retail Success Series. It was a series of six, because I created the content.
4, because I
six.
discovered it.
6 workshops.
So Janet, that if Susan and I disagree, she's the one who's right.
When we get done with this podcast, I'm checking it out.
Sure. The books are anyway.
We did a series of workshops, like 3-hour workshops, for retailers in our town, in our local town, and that's how we started it.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
Yeah,
we did that like a couple months, like the month after we started. We just did some stuff.
So that's a good segue into my next question, because I wanted to ask you about your retail summit. And you host a retail summit for 2 days and you fill an auditorium. So that's a long way from a 3-hour evening workshop with the retailers in your community.
An office in our basement. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me more about the summit. How did it come about?
Sure. You want me to tell us?
Sure.
So, and there's a lesson behind this too. We didn't know how to do this, right? So it's like, okay, now we're in the training business. How do you run a training business? So we hired a guy who's a consultant whose fee was 10% of our annual sales at the time. I mean, it wasn't just a little gulp, it was a giant gulp.
It was a big.
And so the lesson there is sometimes you got to step outside of your comfort zone and make that investment to make the leap that you want to make. And so we had always kind of thought about having this comprehensive training product, but it never got off the ground. We were busy, all these things. And his name was Paul Lemberg. And Paul, during the course of our relationship that first year, he said, you need to create this thing. And the most comprehensive training product for independent retailers anywhere, and that became the Retail Mastery System. And we were paying him enough that it was no longer about should we do this. It's like, we're paying this guy a lot of money, we better do this. And then part of the business model, when you have a high-end product, it's a $3,000 product. When you have a high-end product like the Retail Mastery System, is typically you have to have a high-priced bonus that goes along when people buy it. And that's really how we started the Retail Success Summit. We needed a bonus. We created.
It's not even that we needed a bonus. It was the live version, the added benefit of the Retail Mastery System was the Retail Success Summit, is where you could learn more about all the things that we had put in the Retail Mastery System, meet other people with the Retail Mastery System, meet the two of us who created the Retail Mastery System. So really the retail
Sort of an add-on, yeah.
Yeah, so really the Retail Success Summit sprang forth from the Retail Mastery System, which is our flagship product.
Sprang forth from,
That's
all
right.
right,
So
way to go.
It was created from thin air.
Yeah, so
that
and
product.
so the first year we had 30 people,
48 people.
48, and now it's 400. So it's grown quite a bit, and we've had people from all over the world come. So it's a great event, a lot of great energy, as you
You've
know.
been.
Yeah,
How many times have you been to the Retail Success Summit, Janet?
Oh,
a lot.
that's a good, yeah, at least 4 or 5.
I would say, I think
yeah.
like 5 times, yeah.
Yeah,
And I think we're on year number,
11, 12,
nope, more than that. 15.
wow.
11, 12, 15.
15 years, 15 years.
I just show up and do what I'm told. So
Well, and I think that's the important thing about having a group of people together that are like-minded or struggling or already have figured it out, and they get to sit down at a table together and talk about whatever it is that is either bothering them, or that they can share a solution, or whatever that may be. And I know that one of the things at one of the times that I saw Bob, I went to see him. He was in Toronto, and I had like 3 things that were just making me crazy, just crazy. And I got to his talk. It was a full day talk, and within the first 20 minutes, he'd answered 3 of the 3 questions. And I'm like, okay, well, the rest is going to be gravy here, because I've got the solutions.
And Janet, I think that something else is at play here. Is we as a company and together, and it was always my philosophy when I had the Mackinac Kite Company, is we have an incredibly customer focused philosophy. WWMCW. What would my customer want?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a lot of the questions, like you had, come from people who don't, so you're a talented florist, and you've got a real passion, and you're growing a business, but at some level, you always bump into these philosophical questions. And I see this happen all the time, that, these philosophical questions are roadblocks, and all you need to hear is somebody else say, hey, it's okay to be generous. Hey, it's okay to love your customers. Hey, it's okay to be a good person. You don't have to be a bad person to be a good business person. And I think that when people just sit in that philosophy for a little while, that the questions, the questions, the answers to the questions start to come kind of naturally. Would you agree with that, Janet?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, it's simple things. I mean, for me, one of the most simple was, oh my goodness, how do I effectively handle the donation requests?
Right.
And that was in the first 20 minutes, you answered that. And I'm going, there's the answer.
Yeah,
good,
exactly,
good.
Exactly.
And that's what's great about the program that you've developed, is that it answers all the questions, and it answers questions you don't even know that you're supposed to ask yet. You haven't got to that question, and it answers the question. So
yeah, right.
Yeah,
it's called unconscious incompetence. You don't know what you don't know. And there's no shame in being in unconscious incompetence. I've been there. I have been there.
Well, I think one of our Retail Mastery System owners says that he loves it because he doesn't have to make the mistakes. Bob's made them all ahead of time and written the answers down in the Retail Mastery.
Well, and this is somebody Andy Tessine.
yes.
I'm writing a book right now about independent retailers, and I was interviewing Andy, and what he said that the Retail Mastery System was the beginning of not having to make the mistake to get the answer. right? So until you seek out somebody who knows, who's been there, who's an expert, you have to figure it out on your own. But when you find somebody who you trust to help you with the answers, then you don't have to keep bumping up against that same wall. You know, somebody can show you the way around the wall. So, yeah, you know, you've been there, I've been there.
Everybody with a small business has been there.
Yeah.
Everybody's been there. Yeah. And that's so true that, you know, use your energy wisely. Ask somebody for the answer. And like you say, somebody you trust. And, you know, you eventually just jettison into the stratosphere, and it's a good feeling.
It really does make a big difference in your trajectory.
And Janet, I think that's something that's interesting too, is that one of the big shifts that, so let's go back in small business right now. Expectations are up, loyalty is down. And so you don't have time anymore to make a whole bunch of mistakes. You know, if you start, you better become pretty good pretty quickly, because people have too many options and they'll go someplace else if they don't like what's happening in your store or with your business. But really, the shift is from cost to investment, because, you know, if you want to get better faster, you have to invest. It doesn't have to be money, but it usually invests. It has to do with some money. But, you know, to your point, you want to get better faster, make an investment, spend some time, spend some money, learn from somebody else.
Some of your energy, invest some of your energy.
That's right. So.
Yeah, very true. Very, very true. So you work together all day. I'm always fascinated because I'm, you know, my business is solely owned by me. So I'm always fascinated by couples who have a business together, because you work together all day. How do you sit down and eat dinner? Like, what does dinner look like? Like when you sit down for dinner together?
The ball, there's kind of a misnomer. We don't work together all day.
Well, we have for most. Right now we don't as much. We have different parts of the company that we focus on, but that's not, that has.
I guess that's true.
Question is still true, that, like, you know,
you're right.
We are in meetings together all day long, mostly. So you know, it's interesting, Janet, because we really love working together. We've always loved working together. And so, you know, when we go home, dinner is half about what are the kids doing, half about what happened at work, half about, you know, what's happening with our friends. So it's, you know, our lives and our business are very interconnected. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Yes.
And Nate, our tech guy, he's laughing. So yeah, I mean,
I want to share something else that I think is interesting. So as our business has grown, and we've been doing this for almost 24 years now. And then I was with the Mackinac Kite Company. So we've been working together for
30 years.
30 years.
31, actually.
Wow. And I'm only 29 years old, but you know, in the last couple of years, as we've been growing, we've been very, very intentional about separating out who's responsible for what. And as you know, we're building a new training platform. That's a big, big, big project. And, you know, and I'm really not, I mean, of course I'm part of it, but that's really kind of Susan's project. So, you know, we really got serious about creating structure in our business and making sure that everybody's role is defined. And that's made it easier for us to work together too, because often when we see couples or siblings work together, if there's not clearly defined roles, everybody's doing a little bit of everything and everybody has a little bit to say about everything, and nobody's really accountable to anything. So, and Janet, you were in the Platinum Mastermind group. You know, a big part of that experience is building out the structure so that it works better. So for your listeners, the process is called EOS, which is an acronym for the Entrepreneurial Operating System. And if you buy the book, Get a Grip, you can learn more about it. But structure is really, really important. And it's made it easier for us to work together, don't you think?
Yeah.
Although it's always
been easy for us to work together, but it does make it easy. It is great so that, like, you know, I think people naturally gravitate to certain jobs or roles or tasks in a company. And that was true for, you know, me and Bob as well. But to have them very clearly defined definitely is useful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you have two really fantastic sons who are, beginning to make it in the world on their own, which is fascinating and wonderful to watch. And I know I've said this to you before, but I do have to say it again. When a Canadian icon, Gordon Lightfoot, died, I pulled up the video of the Michigan State Glee Club singing the Edmund Fitzgerald, and had my moment with Gordy. So, the things you've given me aren't always business. So your family gives me a lot too, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, that our older son Joe was in the University of Michigan Men's Glee Club. It's a beautiful song and so well done by those.
Anybody who's watching, Google it. It's there. YouTube, it's there.
YouTube
but Google will take you to YouTube.
Yeah,
so
exactly. Yeah, super touching to see those young men who are the ages of probably a lot of the young men working on that ship sing that song. Like, to me, it was really moving.
Yeah, very touching. Yes.
Yeah. I love that, Jan.
I know that both of you are busy and you've got a busy business and busy lives, so I don't want to we could talk for hours, and that's a given. I want to thank you for being here, but I want to close off with some rapid fire questions. So I've got about 5 questions that just spontaneous answer. And okay, you're up for it? Good. Okay, so red or white?
Red.
Pen or pencil?
And
pen, specifically fountain pen.
No, anyway. Yeah.
What do you like?
I love my Mont Blanc for the feel, but it doesn't write very well, unfortunately. But Uniballs, I'm kind of I need to have a good pen. I can't write with a bad, kind of a pen snob. It's got to have that nice feel. So, pen.
Okay. Sunset or sunrise?
Sunset.
Sunset, unless we're at our house in Mackinac City, then it's sunrise.
Okay. Drama or comedy?
Comedy.
We both have the same answers. That's why it's so easy for us to work together, Janet.
Water ski or snow ski?
Oh, snow ski.
Beautiful. 100%. Bob, Susan, thank you so much for being with us today. I love watching the success of WhizBang and all the things that you're building and growing, and how you support us, all of us small business retailers, and you're always available with an easy answer, and you take so much time with us, and I mean, on myself, but I'll speak for others as well. We really, really appreciate it. This has been
appreciate you part of, we appreciate being part of your journey, and we appreciate being a premier guest
thanks for having
on your podcast. Yeah.
Well, I couldn't think of anybody that I would start this with other than the two of you. So wonderful. I appreciate you. I really do. For those of you that have joined us, this is Chez Les Fleur Podcast. It is our premiere episode with Bob and Susan Negen. If you love business and want to watch more, that's great. If you're just curious about what small business does, there are lots of great business people that we're going to be talking to, whether it's a vintage clothing store or a real estate agent. We have guests that sell saddlery, and it's really an exciting time for small business around the world. And we look forward to next week. Our guest next week actually is going to be Bob Negen, and he's going to talk more about his journey. And we look forward to hearing more about him, because I'm sure you can agree this was a great visit with the Negens. Please tune in next week and we'll hear from Bob. And I appreciate you watching our premiere episode of Chez Les Fleur. We'll see you next week.